at my wedding reception, me and my mother did a mother-daughter dance since she raised me, and we danced to Destiny's Child, Independent Women.
Oh, that's awesome. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Mom's View. We've got a really good crew today. We've got Angel, Kaylee, Katilette, and a very special guest, Jamie from Pretty Prudent. PrettyPrudent.com. You got to check that out on your channel. Always good stuff going on there, like sushi smoothies that you fooled me with the other day. It was delicious. Go check out. Go check out
I made
that
a sushi
recipe.
smoothie and she fell for it.
I was reading it like, okay, I love sushi. I can get on board with this. Like, but then
It
you
was
said,
like a picture of a pink smoothie with a piece of
I was like, whoa.
tuna on
and
top.
I was like, okay, if this is just sushi with like a side of fish on top, or a smoothie with like fish as a garnish, I'm like, okay, well they do like Bloody Marys with shrimp. I'm like, okay, I'm working through this, and then it says April Fool's. I'm like, thank you, God. Because
They had like a little seaweed sprinkled on top.
that's when it really threw me. I was like, that does not sound good. And I love seaweed. And I was like, ugh. So you guys have to check out prettyprudent.com. Super fabulous. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Kaylee, feeling good?
I mean, you know how I'm feeling.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We have a very special clip that we're going to show you guys from some of our favorite past Mom's View guests. I think you guys are going to like this. Take a look.
Moncada! That's your favorite. What do I want? Sushi! Gavin's food is sushi, and her favorite food is purple cotton candy. Okay, her favorite food is spaghetti. His is sushi.
Are you guys dying?
So stinking cute.
Yeah, that video was for National Siblings Day, which is actually today, but it's going up tomorrow, so you guys have to check it out because it's just so cute.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Yay
You
for
don't want to miss
siblings.
it.
Yeah, give them a call, give them a text, give them a hug if you can. You guys all have siblings. So, Jamie,
Yes.
we're going to talk all about you today and being bossy.
That's me. Bossy.
You wrote an article, The Case for Raising Bossy Daughters.
Yes,
So, my love, what inspired you to write that article?
my bossy daughter.
I figured you might say something
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Well, you know, I'm part of a group online of moms, kind of from all over the world, and we know each other mostly online, and we talk about different issues of parenting, things like that. And someone brought up that her daughter was being called bossy at school, and wanted to know what everyone thought about that. And it sparked a really cool discussion, really interesting, a lot of different perspectives, and it just inspired me to write that article. And then about a week later, Sheryl Sandberg came out with her Ban Bossy campaign, and so it kind of went viral. That's what started it.
What's the core of your article about?
Well, what I was really trying to say is, in my experience with my daughter, and I know this is not the same for every child and every girl, but with my daughter, I was hearing her come home from kindergarten saying, so-and-so's bossy, so-and-so's too bossy, or hearing other kids call her bossy. And then my daughter was calling me bossy, which, first of all, I'm the boss, so I'm totally fine with being called bossy. But she wouldn't call her dad bossy, and he's kind of bossier than me, if you're going to use that term. So it really got me paying more attention to what was happening on the playground, and they were calling each other bossy for things like, I want the red popsicle. She's so bossy, and that was really bothering me. And I feel that word, first of all, is a word for children. You know, I don't sit around going, oh my God, that Sherzad is so bossy. She's crazy. You know,
Okay, if you did.
and I think that for girls, what the word does is it takes all of these different qualities, some of which are good qualities that I would like to encourage in my daughter, like being assertive and having a
leader.
being a leader, having a strong voice, and it conflates it with these negative qualities, like maybe just being a jerk, you know, or telling someone what to do without concern for their feelings. And so I feel that we can take those qualities in our children and guide them to becoming successful adults without losing those leadership capabilities. And that when we let our little girls use the word bossy to each other, we are encouraging them, or at least not discouraging them from, we're making them feel as though saying what you want or being assertive in any way is bad, and that the world doesn't want to hear what women think. You know, little boys on the playground who are bossy are called leaders. Right. Little girls who are, you know, in charge are called bossy. And I want my daughter to grow up knowing that she can say what she wants and she can speak with an assertive tone and she can lead if she wants to lead. I don't want her to be a jerk. Like, I want her to learn how to do that appropriately, but I don't want to silence her voice.
Right. I love that.
How do you guys deal with your bossy little daughters? No, I know they're not bossy, but Kayli, does Braylee ever, like, does she ever seem bossy to you? And how do you guys approach that?
Very much so. And there's a part of me that's so proud because I've always wanted to be more bossy.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that personality. So to watch Braylee's personality, she is very strong. She's very independent. She's always been a leader.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that. But at the same time, I worry about her being bossy. And I have told her, like, you don't want to be bossy.
Yeah.
And so just like what you were saying, it's turning these positive things and mixing them with negative things. So then I've watched Braylee step back, and I don't want her to do that. I want her to be strong, and I want her to have all these qualities, but I feel like I've been like, don't be bossy.
Yeah, it's got to be confusing for little kids too, though, because you, like you said, you love all these qualities that she has, and every quality you just described, I think, is a great quality to ask for what you want and be okay with it, and to know what you want and be a leader and speak your mind. Like, that's great, especially for a woman. We've talked so much about women's empowerment, and we talked about it in a couple episodes ago, and there's so much going on with that with Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In and all this, so it's like, it's empowering. And then when you see such a cute little girl, with such a sweet little angel face, like kind of knowing what she wants, it's like, good.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
And so then, it's this, I'm conflicted. Like, I want her to have these great qualities, but don't be bossy. And
I think it's the word.
Yeah.
It's just
That's-
it's so
that's
much
exactly
encompassing
right.
of so many things
Right.
that it can be negative or positive, and it's just sort of tricky how you navigate that.
Right, and you'll hear people use the term like a boss, and that is a compliment, right? Like you say, you just did that like a boss, like you owned it. And I too do that. I've noticed that with myself. Like, I'll be like, Scarlett, just stop being so bossy. Like, you notice those other girls aren't going to play with you. Because I think as mothers, we all want to help teach our children how to be successful and keep them from being harmed. And so if we see them harming themselves with their behavior, we're like, stop doing that. If you want to have friends, like, you can't be bossy. But if we take that word and we, instead of saying bossy, because I think that teaches them to silence their voice in all ways, and instead we say, you're not paying attention to the other people's needs, or maybe what you want isn't always the most important, or we have a little bit more of a nuanced conversation with them. And I think that children appreciate nuance. I think they can understand it,
I think being really specific in how you're trying to explain something, like Avia is my headstrong. She's very much a leader, and it's a good thing. I'm really proud of that, but sometimes she can take it to a level where it's like, okay, you're being too much of a leader where people are not ready to be led by you. And, so I try to be very specific in, like, how I explain to her what she's doing instead of just saying, stop being bossy, because that's just too vague.
Yeah, and I think also there's a way to encourage the good things, like sometimes it's, rewards are better than like negative stuff. And so one thing that can fall under the category of bossy that I think is valuable for my daughter, because she can be a little shy, is to speak with a strong voice about her needs and her wants. And I mean, this is kind of like a little bit of a creepy subject to talk about, but I worry about being a girl in the world and feeling comfortable saying, do not touch me, get away from me, you're making me nervous, and feeling that you can be assertive in your voice. So for my daughter, I really like to encourage her to say how she feels about things and to say it in a loud, strong voice, and like, we'll practice it. Like, I'll be like, you don't like that? Say, no, stop that, don't do, you know what I mean? Because for her, that's a hard thing for her to do.
Angel, tell me about your son. Is he bossy? I mean, do you even ever use that word to describe him? Because usually, like we said, you don't usually use the word bossy to describe a boy. Tell me everything. Go.
No, he's not bossy at all. He has little girls that might be considered the word bossy, and I love it.
Okay.
Because he follows their lead. And I'm like, that's right. Because
That's right.
I grew up in a household with all women. So my mother owns her own company. My sisters are ministers. My sister's an attorney. So we were never, bossy was never something we threw around. I consider these girls just a type A alpha females. Right. And I don't see anything wrong with it because they have a place in life and there will be people that will follow them.
Right.
So even with these little girls that are telling these little boys what to do, some might not like it. Oh, well, find a different friend. There are other little kids that need that. And my son sometimes does. Like, there's one little girl, love her to pieces, little chocolate drop. One of my girlfriend's daughters. And when she comes around, she tells him what to do, and Marcus follows suit, and he's happy with it. He's like, I don't need to thank Thank you for thinking of these activities. This works out for me. I just don't see anything wrong with it. I feel like they'll figure it out. They'll figure out the right, where to go. Because I know sometimes I have to check myself because I feel like I have all the best ideas all the time. But even one of my girlfriends was like, well, you're an alpha female, so we know you have good ideas. That's the reason why we typically listen to you.
Well, Angel, I see what you said about how they're going to figure it out. That is something that I wrote about in my article that I think is really true. That if my daughter is too obnoxiously bossy and like too aggressive, too assertive, isn't paying attention to how other people feel, like she's gonna figure that out soon enough, and other children will tell her, and maybe some adults will tell her, but I am not gonna be the one to tell her not to be bossy. I think my role as like her mother and as her parent is to be her champion and to help guide her, but I'm never gonna say, you're bossy or be quiet. That's not my role, but she will figure that out,
Yeah. Kaylee, Colette, you guys both have boys and girls. Do you feel like you're raising your kids differently?
Well, my kids are complete opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been guilty of telling Braylee, don't be so bossy.
Right.
And I feel like I have to tell Gage, be more bossy. Like, use your voice, be strong, because he's just more quiet and timid, and So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is they're all so different. So you do, in some ways, have to parent differently. But I think if you focus on embracing their qualities, good or bad, like finding the positive in their qualities and where they can channel that in a healthy way is the challenge and the goal.
What's crazy is when you were describing yourself as not being like a bossy type of person, and again, I don't usually use that term.
Yeah.
But when I was on your show, I got to see how assertive you are in your own way, which is really dope, because I don't think you always have to be in a way of being a boss, have to be that chick that's like, get it done now or you're fired. You're not that way, but you are a person that you can tell you know what you're doing, and you're like, okay, are we moving on to this one next? Okay, great, I'm ready. So I got to see how, where we have different personalities, how I am that type of person that's just like, I don't got time for foolishness, that you are able to be a boss without that type of stigma put on it, or that you have to be aggressive all the time.
Exactly.
So.
I think that's a great example of exactly what we're talking about here, which is that there are the negative quality that children put behind the word bossy is that you are demanding things for yourself without caring about how other people feel, or being rude while you do it, or being aggressive or selfish. Whereas like Kaylee is such a great example of being like a boss, but the good qualities that we see behind that. So better to describe those individual qualities and, it was great working with you. I love the way you lead this team. I love the way you manage your site and your business, and I admire that because she's nice, And so you don't want to make being sweet the thing that's great there. You want it to be being appropriately in charge in your own way, personality. I think. Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're in charge with your own personality attached to it. I would be, even if I wasn't a leader, I'd probably be assertive. That's just a part of who I am. So I think it's fine. Some girls are just going to be more assertive, even if they're not bosses in the world. So I think it's fine if a girl is. If she's that assertive, let her be that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't know why this popped into well, I do know why because we're talking about it, but I don't know where I want to go with it. But my son, my oldest son, he liked this girl, and I'm just going to call her Sarah because I don't want to use her real name. But he came home and he goes, Mom, he liked her so much. Like he wanted to buy her Valentine's gifts and stuff like this. Like he's just a little romantic.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And he liked her so much. And one day he goes, I don't think I like Sarah anymore, Mom. And I go, why? And he goes, well, because she wanted my hacky sack and I wouldn't give it to her. And she leaned over to me and she said, what Sarah wants, Sarah gets.
Oh, yes.
Oh, is that being bossy? I just thought
this up for you.
I just thought it was so funny, but it was this, like he definitely realized I don't want that, and he's like I don't like her anymore. So you were right. Like people, she'll figure it out eventually.
If I heard my daughter saying that, I would definitely step in on that one. I would be like, this is not how we talk to people. Like,
There's got to be a balance though between being a diva, and being assertive and knowing what you want and who you are.
Maybe she's just like a comedian.
kind of
though, 'cause
leaning
that's
towards
I had a daughter who said that, I would crack up and be like, really? Are you serious right now in life?
I say that in a joking way, but then it
But
usually
you
works
do
out.
get what you want.
Whatever Shaw's wants.
She's speaking it into existence. She's like, that hacky sack will be mine.
It will be mine. So funny. Yeah. So do you guys have any particular moments that stand out in your mind where your kids were being particularly bossy?
Oh, all the time. All the time. But I love it when Braylee and Avia get together because they both have similar personalities, and so they kind of like try to outboss each other a little bit. I feel like that's when I'm like, Braylee, stop being so bossy. But it's really cute too.
Yeah.
I had an example of Scarlett being bossy in a good way that I really liked, and it kind of relates to the topic of bullying. But there's some girls at her school that she's really good friends with, and they, I guess, were on the playground and they were all yelling at another girl, you need to go on the something with us, on the monkey bars with us or something, and this other girl didn't want to, and they were yelling at her, and my daughter stepped in and was like, stop yelling at her. She doesn't want to do it, leave her alone. I didn't know anything about this until a couple of days later, that little girl's father bumped into me dropping off the kids at school, and he was like, you know, my daughter came home and told me this story about what your daughter said, and said that she was so glad that Scarlett was there. And so I pulled Scarlett aside. I was like, yes, girl. And I know the girls that were yelling are like really cool girls in class and stuff, and I was like, that is what I want to see you doing. Like, stand up for that little girl. I'm so proud of you.
That's so
I hope
sweet.
she is president then.
You know, she does do that. My son did something like that. It had me cracking up. He didn't even know I was there at the school. There were two boys. They were fighting over a log because they were waiting to see a spider come out. And one boy was like, I've got to stand closer because the spider will bite you. And the other boy was like, I want to see. And they're fighting. And little Marcus, with his little speech problems, was like, hey, everybody calm down.
That's the cutest thing.
I was just like, are you kidding me right now? It was so cute. I was just like, that's right. You better get the peace happening. He's a peacemaker. He will assert himself when it's time to make peace, or if somebody's picking with him, he will yell at you and be like, I don't like it. And I'm like, tell him. That's what you do. You tell him. That's the only other person he tries to like tell stuff is me. He thinks he's the boss of me.
I was gonna say, I think you told a story once that, and you guys were kind of battling
We
about getting out of the car
always-
seat or something like
Yes.
that. And he was like, no. And you were
Yeah,
like,
because I was like, you want me to spank you? He's like, you want me to spank you? I'm like, you are not the boss of me. He thinks that he is the boss of me. So we have some struggles with that. But as far as the kids are concerned, he figures out where he falls in. He knows when it's time for him to assert himself, and he knows when it's easier just to fall back and let someone else take the lead.
like his mama.
Yes, like his mama.
Have you guys ever been called bossy?
My daughter calls me bossy all the time. But I always just tell her, I'm the queen. I'm the queen, I'm in charge. She's obsessed with Frozen, you know, and I just adore that movie. I think it's such a great role model. And that's really a movie where with the queen in there, and she's independent, she's like on her own, she's not worried about getting married or being quiet or anything like that. And so I always tell her, you know, I'm the queen. You're the princess, one day you can be queen. Learn from the best.
Right. I've been getting called bossy my whole life, mostly by my mom. Bossy little girl, you. But I don't know, I think it's worked out nicely.
Yeah, you've accomplished a lot. I don't
Thank
think
you.
there's anything wrong with it.
Thanks.
I
Yeah,
don't think
I've
there's-
never thought that word was particularly bad. But yeah, as long as you're not like mean, and not like a diva like your son's friend, Sarah. Kaylee, has anybody ever called you bossy?
I don't think so.
You were bossy.
I don't think so. Someone call me bossy.
I was racking my brain. I'm like, I think I get told to be more bossy.
Okay.
Like Shay's like, you need to be more aggressive. You need to be more, because he's bossy. But I guess with my daughter, you asked an example of like when our kids have done it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the challenges for her, because she's always like the leader of any group. Like she commands, even at her parent-teacher conference, her teacher was like, she commands this entire class. Like she's a leader.
That would make me so
And,
proud.
like, it does. It makes me proud. At the same time, it can be very hard for her because she's such like a OCD, organized, neat freak, like needs to be in charge, which I think is going to be very beneficial for her in the future.
Absolutely.
But it's also sometimes detrimental to herself. She feels like if she can't be in control of the situation, it's like up in arms. You know, sometimes it's hard for her to find that balance of not being in charge and just listening and obeying.
I
or,
feel her pain.
I do. You know?
Weight to carry on your shoulders too. To have like even your teachers being like, you are like the woman in charge. That's like that can be stressful and pressure too.
Right.
She's going to be something super fabulous when
She
she
really
grows up,
is.
though.
It's
All your
interest-
little girls
It's
will be.
interesting to have children that you're like, that is just like me, but that is nothing like me.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Like she's very like perfectionist, which I have always been that way, but she's also a leader, which I haven't always been that way. So
But nobody's ever called you bossy.
not that I can think
I'm
of.
sure because you run your household, though. I mean, for the most part. I'm sure you're the boss at home.
At home,
with your
I
babies.
can probably get bossy, but
Yeah.
my kids know if I'm being that way, then like,
Yeah.
oh, we better listen.
Yeah, right. Like it may not come out often, but when it does.
So you have to be someone in charge over there
Yeah.
and get
With
all that
5,
taken care
yes.
of.
Yeah, with 5 little babies, I'm sure you put that boss hat on and you're like, gotta do
Listen
it.
up.
I know. I mean, you guys do like big family trips. Like, I'm sure you're taking charge. And
In the airport, I'm definitely.
I was gonna say, yeah, I know. I saw one of your vlogs,
We
and I
had
was
to
like,
be bossy the other day at the Tough Mudder.
Oh,
we had
seriously.
8 kids.
I saw that. Yeah.
And we had to put our boss hats on.
We
and
did.
we were like, listen up, everyone, in a straight line.
Now we're doing this.
We did a good job too.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Well, you guys, that's it for our episode today.
Oh, that was fun.
I'm so sad. Yeah, thank you, Jamie,
I
for
missed
coming
you guys. I
on.
haven't seen you in forever.
I know it.
Too.
I know, it's nice to be back.
Okay, you guys, that is it for our episode. You can always keep the convo going by using the hashtag TMV Talk. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, all of them, right? Did I cover all of them? Okay, I think so. And YouTube. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.